The New York Yankees are one of the most storied franchises in all of baseball. With their 27 World Series championships, they have a lot of good history to look back on. However, in recent years, they haven't been as lucky. The last time they've made it into an ALDS was 2012, which was 5 long, grueling years ago. And since then, there have been some bad contracts and bad moves by the management, but it finally looks like things are going to be looking up. They have bright new stars like Aaron Judge, Gary Sanchez, and Didi Gregorius in the major leagues, making a huge impact on the team right now. They also have stars in the minor leagues like Clint Frazier and Gleyber Torres waiting to make an impact. So now we are going to take over the Yankees rebuild in MLB The Show 17 and see if we can win a championship with them. So for the 2017 season, our rotation is going to be Masahiro Tanaka, CC Sabathia, Michael Pineda, Luis Severino, and Jordan Montgomery. Our bullpen is going to be Chasen Shreve, Tommy Lane, Jonathan Holder, Adam Warren, Tyler Clippard, Aroldis Chapman, and Dellin Betances. Our main lineup will have Brett Gardner in left field, Gary Sanchez at catcher, Greg Bird at first, Aaron Judge in right, Matt Holliday at DH, Starlin Castro at second, Chase Headley at third, Jacoby Ellsbury in center, and Didi Gregorius at short. On our bench, we will have Austin Romine as the backup catcher, Chris Carter as the backup first baseman, Ronald Torreyes as our utility man, and Aaron Hicks as our fourth outfielder. So now we're going to go ahead and start simming through the season. And as you can see, there are a few injuries that we're getting hit with right off the bat, but it is not going to slow us down as we are playing very well all throughout April. This good play is going to end up continuing throughout May as we keep on winning series and sweeping series. This isn't exactly the result I expected this early on, but I am not too mad with it. But in June we do falter a bit, losing a bunch of games straight and going on a bit of a cold streak, but good thing the All-Star break is coming up because that will allow us to kind of take a breather and get things sorted. Let's take a quick look at some things at the All-Star break. As you can see by the division standings, we have a 2-game lead over the Boston Red Sox, while at the same time having quite a few injuries, most of them to the minor league farm system, but one big one is Starlin Castro. He's on the disabled list with a broken hand, and he is going to be out for 1 to 2 months. So due to Starlin Castro being on the DL for so long, we're going to go ahead and call up top prospect Gleyber Torres and hope he can make an immediate impact on the major league team. Torres is already a pretty good overall for such a young player, and hopefully he can start producing for the major league club. We actually do have 2 All-Stars this season as well, and they're both starting pitchers, Michael Pineda and Luis Severino, and they are both overperforming quite a bit as both of the pitchers have ERAs under 2, which I didn't expect, but it's a pleasant surprise. So now continuing the simulation through the second half of the season, we get kind of off to a rough start off the gates, but we start to pick it up a little more towards August, towards the middle and end of the month, as we're starting to get on a streak more. We finished the first half with a good record, so that gave us kind of a cushion to live with, but we need to finish strong in order to get to the playoffs, and we end up finishing the regular season tied with the Los Angeles Angels for the second wildcard spot, so that means we have to play a 1-game playoff. But before we get into that, we're going to go over some stats, the standings, and stuff like that. So first off, we're going to show you all the standings. As you can see, we finished second in the AL East, 16 games behind the Boston Red Sox, who won 106 games. You can't really outplay that, so we're going to have to live with that. And we'll go right over to the wild card here. And as you can see, we are tied with Los Angeles for the second wild card spot, meaning we do have to play game 163, and then if we win that, we have to play the Indians in another 1-game playoff. So how great is that? As for player stats, I have all the rotation stats on the screen right now. As you can see, Tanaka was very good, Pineda was very good, Adam Warren was in the rotation because Jordan Montgomery got hurt, and Severino was also very, very good. CC Sabathia struggled quite a bit, but he's a good experienced postseason pitcher, so hopefully he can improve in the playoffs. Now we have the bullpen stats on the screen, and guys like Chad Green and Giovanni Gallegos, Jonathan Holder, they all struggled, but they weren't really huge parts of the bullpen. Chasen Shreve was decent, Tommy Lane was actually much better than I expected, and the back end was absolutely lights out. Betances, Clippard, and Chapman were all absolutely dominant, and with numbers like those, it's definitely hard to lose games in the last few innings. Now we're going to look at our lineup and bench, and as you can see, the first 2 guys, Brett Gardner and Starlin Castro, really had good offensive years. Aaron Judge as well, 35 bombs. Gary Sanchez was kind of a letdown. He could have done a lot better. Matt Holliday, he's not really too young, so he didn't have a terrible year. Chris Carter was okay, would have liked more home runs from him. Aaron Hicks wasn't too terrible. He ended up starting more than Ellsbury because of Ellsbury's inability to play baseball correctly. Chase Headley had another painfully mediocre year, and Didi Gregorius had a disappointing season. Now on the side of the bench, Gleyber Torres really didn't provide much on offense. Austin Romine was good enough for a backup catcher. Torres did his job playing multiple positions. Ellsbury is a waste of money at this point. Rob Refsnyder didn't play too often, but in the short amount of time that he did not too bad. We're going to go ahead and sim this one game playoff, and we end up winning 7-6, meaning we will be playing the Indians in the wild card game. But really quickly, I want to take a look at the box score and see what happened, and oh my god, Brett Gardner hit 3 home runs in a game. Yeah, that Brett Gardner, 3 home runs in a single game, drives in 6 runs to carry us to a win and to the playoffs. Who would have expected that? I know I wouldn't have. So now that Brett Gardner carried us to the playoffs, we end up winning the wild card game against Cleveland 3-0. Then we go to the ALDS versus Boston, where we pick up the first game and lose the second one. Then we win the third and the fourth, taking the series as a whole, moving on to the ALCS. As you can see, we're playing the Detroit Tigers. We drop game 1, win game 2, drop game 3, win game 4, drop game 5, win game 6, and then win game 7. And we are going to the World Series a lot earlier than I expected. This is all going very, very well until we lose the first 3 games of the World Series, win the 4th, and then eventually lose the whole thing. Now, after the season, Greg Bird decided to retire because of an injury. I didn't expect that to happen. He tore his MCL and he decided to call it quits, which obviously changes things a lot. So we're going to have to make some moves in the offseason. We ended up re-signing Michael Pineda and Tyler Clippard, and we're also going to go ahead and pick up Lucas Duda, as we now need a first baseman. We're also going to pick up Tony Watson to bolster the bullpen, and we're also going to get Lance Lynn to make the rotation a bit stronger. We're going to end up trading for Brett Cecil by sending Robert Refsnyder and Luis Sessa to the Cardinals, and then we're going to get rid of Headley in exchange for Jake Diekman and Matt Bush of the Rangers. And we're also going to get rid of Ellsbury by sending him to the Twins in exchange for pitcher Chris Heston. This is going to lead us right into the 2018 season, where our rotation is going to be Tanaka, Pineda, Severino, Lance Lynn, and Chris Heston. Our bullpen is going to be Tyler Clippard, Brett Cecil, Matt Bush, Adam Warren, Dellin Betances, Tony Watson, and Aroldis Chapman. Our lineup is looking something like Brett Gardner in left, Starlin Castro at second, Judge in right, Carter at DH, Duda at first, Sanchez at catcher, Hicks in center, Torres at third, and Didi at short. Then our bench is going to have Tyler Wade, Tyler Austin, Austin Romine, and Ronald Torreyes. We're going to go straight into the simulation, and as you can see, we are not playing too well. We're hovering around 500, but we can't really get a winning streak up and over it. And the times we do, we end up falling right back to 500, which is the cycle of mediocrity, as I like to call it. And that will bring us into the All-Star break. Not doing too well, a few games under 500, but we do have one lone All-Star, and that is Aroldis Chapman, who is absolutely killing it. As you can see, his stats are on the screen. He was our only All-Star that year, but he is a very bright spot on this rather mediocre team. Now we're going to go ahead and simulate the second half of the season, hoping to turn it around. And at a point, it looks like we're actually getting winning streaks going, but alas, it does not last, and we end up falling back to 500, and we finish the season 82-80, missing out on the playoffs. Huge disappointment. Now we're going to go over some player stats. We have Tanaka, Pineda, and Severino all having pretty decent years, but the bottom 2 guys, Lance Lynn and Chris Heston, absolutely underperformed. Lance Lynn ERA over 5, and Chris Heston had an ERA near 5, which is the exact opposite of what we want out of our starting pitchers. You can take a look at our bullpen. Tyler Clippard had another good season. Matt Bush wasn't too bad. Dellin Betances was absolutely terrible. He must have been hurt. That's why he had so few innings pitched. Tony Watson was kind of a letdown, and Aroldis Chapman had a very, very good year, as he was an all-star, as I mentioned earlier. But really the main problem here is Brett Cecil was really underperforming by a lot. Adam Warren could have done a lot better, and Dellin Betances, who was supposed to be one of our best relievers, was pretty terrible. Now we will look at our lineup, and Gardner had a low average, a lot of home runs though. Castro was another guy who hit for a lot of power. We could deal with that 262 average coming out of second base. Judge hit 41 home runs, can't complain there. Sanchez hit 43, can't complain there. Duda did his job, he had some power. Chris Carter was pretty bad. Aaron Hicks had 19 bombs, not bad from him. Didi was pretty mediocre. Torreyes didn't do so well either. Tyler Wade did nothing. Tyler Alston ended up hitting 8 home runs off the bench, and Romine did his job for a backup catcher. So you could see everyone just kind of didn't do as good as the last year. So since we don't have a first baseman, we're going to end up re-signing Lucas Duda, because at this point we need him, and it's a 1-year deal, so hopefully we can get someone better down the line. And Bryce Harper was actually a free agent in this offseason, but for whatever reason we couldn't afford him. No matter how many times I tried, it just gave me the message that we ran out of money, which as a Yankees franchise, you don't really expect that to happen. So I'm not really sure why we ran out of money. I tried the same thing with Manny Machado, and we didn't have enough money with him either. So we couldn't sign any of the big flashy free agents. So we kind of had to resort to being bottom feeders. This led us to picking up Brad Brock to strengthen the bullpen a bit. We also went and got Jose Quintana, who's usually a very good pitcher, for a pretty cheap deal. Then we flipped Chris Heston to the Astros for a bunch of prospects. For 2019, our rotation was Tanaka, Severino, Pineda, Quintana, and Lance Lynn, and our bullpen was Clippard, Brock, Matt Bush, Adam Warren, Dylan Betances, Tony Watson, and Aroldis Chapman. Our lineup this year was Starlin Castro at second, Aaron Judge in right, Aaron Hicks in center, Gary Sanchez at catcher, Duda at first, Gleyber Torres at third, Didi at short, and since we lost Brett Gardner in free agency, Clint Frazier was getting the call. He was going to be our everyday left fielder. Then we were going to call up Dustin Fowler to make the major league roster. Tyler Alston was going to continue to be on the team, as well as Tyler Wade. Austin Romine was once again going to be the backup catcher, and Ronald Torreyes was also going to be the utility man. So as we start the simulation, we noticed that we're underperforming once again, a little bit worse than last year actually. We got off to a very terrible start, but we do pick it up as the season goes on. We fight our way back to 500, but once again, once we get there, everything seems to fall off. Now at the All-Star break, we are not doing very well at all, which is disappointing considering we went to the World Series a few years ago. But we're just playing at a mediocre level. Our one All-Star this year was Masahiro Tanaka, who was having a very, very good season, but he alone cannot carry us. So as we start our sim of the second half, you notice that we're starting to get on a few hot streaks, but as soon as we get on them, we end up going right back to 500 and below. And no matter how many we go on, everything just falls back to earth. And when it's all said and done, we're going to end up finishing the season with the exact same record as last year, 82 and 80. So we got very close to a World Series championship our first year, and we couldn't quite get back in the following years. Now I know it might be disappointing, but this is actually the end of the video, and if you guys enjoyed, please let me know in the comments if you want to see more stuff like this. Leave a like, it would be very appreciated. Let me know what you think about this kind of format, if you want to see more of it. Let me know if I should try the Yankees again, or if you want to see a different team. Leave it in the comment section below, and as always, thanks for watching. I'm out. Peace.